Welcome everyone to the show that's hotter than a freshly brewed cup of coffee and bolder than Buckaroo Banzai, boozing at a backyard barbecue. This is the Common Ground Radio Show, where finding common ground is our mission, but having a good old time is our specialty. Join your hosts, Big Al and Zapper, as they dive into the swirling vortex of topics that can either make or break friendships. From politics to pop culture, they'll explore it all. So, whether you're a liberal or conservative, a carnivore or vegan, prefer crunchy peanut butter over smooth, all y'all are welcomed here. Because diversity isn't just a buzzword, it's the spice of life. Get ready to have your worldview shaken, stirred, and served with a side of gut-wrenching laughter. The Common Ground Radio Show starts now. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Common Ground Radio Show. Big Al with the Zapper in the virtual studio today on this beautiful Tuesday here in the Low Country, 12 March 2024. Please stick around. It's Talk Tuesday. We got plenty to talk about and hope you will join us in for the conversation as well. The phone lines will be opening up if I can get my words out there. Phone lines are now open. 843-305-3075 is the call-in studio number right here. You can talk live, anything that's on your mind. Please give us a shout. Big Al, what's going on, brother?
All right, man. What's happening? Live from the bunker.
Live from the... That's right.
We're on it.
We're back at it after taking last week off. I had, the kids were home from college, spring break, and... so we're back in it, and thank you for joining me today in the virtual studio in the bunker, and it's always great to have you, brother.
Right, man. It's great. It's great to be here. Great day, beautiful day. The Lord's given us high skies, bluebird. Man, we can certainly use some of this after getting drenched out with some rain.
The good thing with the rain, it washed some of that the pollen, at least over here, man. It's been thick,
right.
Thick as...
It certainly is. It's not doing my allergies any good either.
No. I think it's funny. My wife, she's been blowing her nose left and right. And yesterday morning when I woke up, I'm like, oh man, it's time to do the nasal flush because it's, it gets thick. If you're listening somewhere else in the world, folks, we're down here in the heart of the Low Country in South Carolina. And this time of year is when the pollen starts. And you get this nice yellowish green kind of, I don't know, it's like a coating over everything that's outside. And then once, I don't know, it takes anywhere a couple weeks, sometimes it's like a month, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would just had to laugh because, I knew this was coming again. I went to a ENT doctor, and talked about allergies and such. And he gives me this great idea. He goes, listen, you got to go get one of these electronic neti pot things.
Yeah.
Oh, so I said, oh, yeah, okay. I said, where do I get it? And he goes, yeah, just go on Amazon. They get 1 million of them. Just, get a reputable brand. I said, okay. So I buy this. It comes. I'm all excited.
Yeah.
I load it up. It's a special, you got to use distilled water. You got these special packets. And it has these 2 prongs that fit in your nostrils, of course.
In one side, out the other, right?
yeah. It's electronic, so it's pumping this saline solution through. And you're not supposed. It's supposed to drain right into the capture tank,
right?
But in my case, it was it was the funniest thing. Linda was falling down laughing because I was like, a freshman in high school or a freshman at college, first time drinking. This stuff was coming into my throat, out of my mouth. I was gagging.
She can't take no more.
It was like I was being waterboarded. I was like
waterboarded.
I had water all this skanky water all down the front of my shirt. I'm like, what is going on? This is some kind of trick or something.
Where's the candid camera?
I paid $100 to get drenched by this stuff, but
that's funny.
So we give it another couple of tries, but it's highly unlikely I'll be using that machine anymore.
Boy, you're high tech. I just use the old little neti pot, pour it into the one side of the nostril, and it comes bleeding
Yeah.
out the other.
Right. No, I thought I'd go, here's a recommendation from a guy that's supposed to know,
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I don't know if he gets a cut of the deal, but it was like comedy personified. It was like something, the Roland and Martin show or something. It was like I
Well,
was
yeah,
gagging, it
that's
was just,
this time of year, like we were
yeah.
discussing in the intro, and it just the filth, it covers everything. I mean, if you've got we have just a little back porch or patio that it has screens, so it's not enclosed. I mean, it is somewhat, but it's still, I mean, it's blowing their stuff everywhere, and I can't wait for it to finally subside so I can start cleaning the patio and the furniture and everything outdoors, and then the pavers, everything. I mean, the outside of the house, it needs to be done. So at any rate, it's just kind of put a hold on any progress moving forward for a little bit. But hey, that's part of living. It's a lot better than shoveling snow.
Yeah, just last week, my kids are up in Cleveland, and they said they had 3 inches of snow up there. So
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that, and I
yeah,
think that it was like kind of like a day or two where it was kind of yucky weather, and then it was going to turn. Spring is here, man. We've sprung forward with the clocks. We're back on daylight savings time for the next several months.
yeah, I
So
think we could do without that.
I despise it, honestly. How do you
Yeah, I
handle it?
do
How do
too.
you adapt pretty quickly to it?
Yeah, I do, but I just it's like an inconvenience. Like, oh, I lose an hour of sleep. Not that I sleep all day. I'm a 6 hour a night guy, but
Yeah.
yeah, just before we leave the neti pot thing, please, folks, use caution with these things.
Yeah, my wife
Uh,
got one of those visage, or I can't, Navage or something,
yeah,
Navage,
right. That's
something
yeah.
similar. And it's like this pump, and yeah, and she didn't like it. I think she got rid of it. I was like, that's an expensive little
Well,
contraption to
yeah.
get rid of. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is important to be able to, regardless of whether you have allergies or not. I think it really is good to rinse out the nasal cavity, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
We survived so long without it. I don't, but anything new, electronic, I'm into it. Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
We,
that's
we
good.
have the manual neti pot too. I think I'm going to return back to that base, but
That's me. I'm not
otherwise,
too I'm high tech with everything else, but when it comes to the nasal flush, I'm just an old fashioned. Pour it in one
yeah,
side and let it bleed out the other. So there we go.
right,
So what's
right.
going on? What's going on in your world? We were talking a little bit about the Veterans Administration for both of us as veterans before you came on the
Oh yeah,
program.
yeah, yeah,
I kind of wanted to rehash that if you're good with it. You said you were trying
yeah.
to
Sure.
track down some
Well,
info on your Army
on my
records.
in my service, I'm going to start this conversation off by just saying the people that work at the VA, the healthcare professionals there are the best on the planet, at least where I live, and that's in the Beaufort County area of South Carolina. I have never, you know, with the amount of veterans that are moving in and out of the Naval Hospital up here, they never seem to get aggravated or, at the wits' end with you. They handle everybody like they know you, and the medical doctors and PAs are the best.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, being a government agency and having the 33 years working for Uncle Sam, the red tape and the administrative side of it, quite frankly, needs major work. Major work. They're chasing me around about something that is so obvious. I provided so much data for them to make a decision. Um, I'm not on a claim, but just my eligibility
Hmm.
while in the Army. And, now I'm getting questioned. The doctor just called me back, said, "Oh, yeah, I missed you. I couldn't get you before you left. I got a message that you got to see some kind of administrator about your eligibility. Please call me back right away." And I'm like, you know, I think this is how they do it. They wear you down. They wear these veterans down, myself included, you included, to the point where you just kind of take your whole file and throw it in the garbage and say, forget it. I'll live with whatever I have.
Yeah.
I think, that's a tactic. That's a strategy, I think, to save money or something. They act like, this care is not, even though you were injured while serving your country, you have to prove beyond a shadow of doubt. I worked in an environment. I'll just give you I just recently got denied this. I worked in an environment that was had blow-on asbestos in Alaska. We had to work in that environment. We were radiated, and we were forced to take these tunnels that had this blow-on insulation, as well as radiated heat in our rooms that were insulated with, guess what? Asbestos. That they just came out with the PACT Act, which covers like Agent Orange and open burn pits in the desert, et cetera, et cetera. But I got a list of requirements that I have to do in order to follow through with this documented injury to my lungs that was discovered while I was undergoing open heart surgery. They can't see what the nexus is. My doctors had said, listen, this guy's having problems with this because of this. That's not good enough. So, I mean, I suppose I probably shouldn't even talk about that because it's my own personal stuff. But, you times this by 10,000 or 100,000 veterans in this country that have to go through this, like jump through these hoops and dive through these keyholes. And I mean, this inquisitions about things that are blatantly, you can't make this stuff up.
No.
I mean, you'd have to be pretty, yet we're sending billions and billions of dollars to another country that doesn't have any scruples anyway. So that's, doesn't work.
Well, I did want to add to that. So the whole bureaucracy thing, you do have to have patience. I know for myself, it was a late fall of 23 of last year, and I had reached out. There's a digital veterans ID. It's a veteran VA identification. It's a digital one that they do now. And I mean, talking to you and some of my other veteran friends, I had never really taken advantage of any of the veterans benefits. And I know that's a shame on me, but I was discharged in, I guess officially it was 2001. So it's been 20 plus years. At any rate, I had reached out to their website, and it took me, I will say, if you've gone through this painstaking process, I was just trying to get access to my records and to see what I was afforded in terms of whether it's medical. I'm on a Christian medical sharing. It's called MediShare, and so I don't have traditional health care insurance under Affordable Care Act or anything like that, and I work pretty much for myself. So long story short, I wanted to see what was available. I've heard some of my friends were saying they were getting excellent care at the VA, so I decided to go down this path. And to make it a short, concise story, to get my veteran ID, which I still haven't received yet, by the way. There's some glitch in the system, supposedly. This is October of last year. And the lady that I've been corresponding with via email has been spectacular. And about a month ago, she said, well, you can get your verification through the National Archives. And so I went through all the hoops and did that. And honestly, they sent me all of my discharge paperwork, my DD-214s and all that stuff from active and also reserve duty. And I was really impressed within a 24-hour turnaround time. And so if you're listening and you're a veteran and you're trying to get some of this stuff done, listen, I understand. And as Al just shared as well, I mean, some of this stuff, it's kind of a pain in the backside, but hang in there and get through it because you are afforded as a veteran a tremendous amount of different services and offerings through the federal government. So take advantage of it. I finally got everything pretty much squared away. Veterans Affairs, so the VA offers a nice app. And now anywhere I go, I've got all my records, so I can actually show somebody, if somebody wants a discount offers a discount to veterans, 10%. Some stores do that. You can show it right there and say, yeah, here I served active duty. Here was my reserve. Here was my discharge. And so I don't know if I'll ever get my digital veteran ID, but now I know what I can access in terms of eligibility for health care and other things. And as I get older, I think more and more about it, and you're a little bit older than I am, Al, but the reality is you never know what's going to come down the pike, and it's nice to have that. So if you're a veteran, I encourage you, go to the VA, just type in Veterans Administration, it'll come right up, and you can go there and va.gov, I think, and follow there's plenty of Q&A and other stuff, other resources available to you, as well as suicide hotline and other things if you're having issues with mental health and some challenges. There are professionals there for you, so please take advantage of that.
Yeah, you got to have perseverance too. I mean, don't give up. It's I think that's what the plan is sometimes. But like I said before,
yeah, unfortunately,
persevere.
You served in the military too. It is bureaucracy 101. I mean, it's just a huge beast. It's a big machine. There's a lot going on, and when you get to the VA, I mean, you're talking, all the veterans that are still alive. It's a Herculean effort to try to manage everything. So you got to stay on top of your records yourself and make sure that you do everything that's necessary. But
yeah, and check on what Lucinda Martinez. What is the name of that organization that we support?
Wounded Spirits.
Wounded Spirits. That's it.
Yeah. I almost said Wounded Warriors, but no, it's Wounded Spirits.
Yeah, Wounded Spirits up in Beaufort, South Carolina. If you're listening in the area, look up Wounded Spirits. Great organization. They care about you.
Yeah, they provide
they can.
ample resources in a Christian, a faith-based. They're followers of Christ, and so it's grounded, rooted biblically. It's a great organization. So,
absolutely.
Well, lots to talk about in the news. I didn't watch the State of the Union, but there's been obviously geopolitically, there's always so much going on. You kind of alluded to that as well, with more aid being rounded up to send over to Ukraine as we've got all these proxy wars that have been going on. And if anybody that listens to Tucker Carlson or watches his Tucker Carlson network, I mean, we have more and more stuff that we find out every single day that what we've been told is a bunch of lies and propaganda and trying to sift through the truth. So any specific topics you want to talk about, I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute before I dive in with some of my headlines.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to discuss one thing. Let me get, I need to get a piece of paper. Hang on.
While I was doing that, I just wanted to say the phone lines are still open, folks. If you have questions or comments, feel free to give us a holler here in the studio. 843-305-3075 is the number. 843-305-3075 takes you right here to our studio line. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right.
I didn't fall out of my chair or anything like that. I just
I hope not.
Covering my roadmaster across the room. But hey, listen, I just some local news I just want to talk about. This Bluffton Police Department, the chief Babs pledges a 30 by 30 for the department to reach 30% representation of females by 2030. It's a big national push, but I'm not so sure that this is really, it's been cranked out by New York University, big study with their diversity folks over there. And, it hasn't risen above 13% in like 2 decades. And what does that tell you? It doesn't tell you that female applicants are being turned away. What it tells me is that female applicants have not applied for the job. I mean, it's a tough job. There's no question about it. And I say that because I know, because I served as a law enforcement officer for 2 years, 2.5 actually, on the road in Oklahoma. So, I mean, this rush to be politically correct or workforce balance, we're coming back around full circle to the affirmative action line. But I just want to read you some of this stuff that they put out. from the Bluffton PD. It says currently women make up only 12% of sworn officers and 3% of police leadership in the U.S. This underrepresentation of women in policing has significant public safety implications. Research suggests that women officers, one, use less force and less excessive force. Two, are named in fewer complaints and lawsuits. Three, are perceived by communities as being more honest and compassionate. And four, see better outcomes for crime victims, especially in sexual assault cases. Now, I think that this program is going to end in tears, quite frankly, if you ask me. I mean, New York University, the big brain people that are considering this to be, the holy grail. What happens when we reach 30%? What is it going to be? 35 the next year, 50 the next year, 175, 100%. How do you force these young people to apply? These young female applicants, or not even young, they can be up to 35 years old, I believe, or even older than that. How do you force these people to apply? What does the cast net become bigger? Do we start lowering the standards and training physical abilities? Do we train them differently? Do we give them better tools, more armor, increasing their probability of survival? Is this all going to be a tailor-made deal? What strategy are we going to use for their placement and their roles in law enforcement? I mean, are you going to not have them at the, are they all going to be community resource officers? Or are we going to put them at the tip of the spear? Because to me, what this four-step thing, the research suggests, that's published by Bluffton PD, it suggests there's no empirical data that says that they use less force and less excessive force. I mean, that would depend on the situation. I've served with a female officer with me. She weighed about 120 with her equipment on. And there was no way she was going to drag me out of the field of fire. No way. So, I mean, to say this, that they use less force and a less excessive force, I don't know if you're going to hang your head on that. What does that say about the officers that are serving right now, the non-female officers? Does that say that these guys are all ogres, or they have a problem with excessive force? And the female officers are named in fewer complaints and lawsuits. Well, yeah, you would be not named in complaints and lawsuits if you were working at a school, or if you were doing traffic at the high school football games, or doing church traffic on Sundays. Not much chance that you're going to get yourself in a lawsuit there. And this word that they use here, perceived by communities as being more honest and compassionate. What does that say to your male officers that are working right now? That they don't have those qualities? They're not compassionate? How about the guy that jumps in the river to save a kid at his own peril and more honest? I guess if you're a male officer, then you are running a balance of internal affairs. You better not take a cup of coffee at the, Piggly Wiggly or whatever. I don't know. And they see better outcomes for crime victims, especially sexual assault cases. I mean, this to me is, it's heartbreaking because I know that every cop that's on a job right now, there are some bad eggs out there. There's some guys that shouldn't be cops, but for the 95% of the police officers that are males, they try to do a good job, be fair and equitable in their judgment on the street. And this pandering to the DEI crowd just makes you look weak. It smashes your morale. Chief B, please. I mean, I guess you're being told what to do here, but I think it's a bad idea. I really do. You get specialized treatment. I don't know.
Seems like an unrealistic goal. You said 13 point something percent right now of the force.
Yeah, well, it's 12%, and it's I don't know. Well, what is?
Well, that's more than double. So you said to get to 30%, it just seems unrealistic. Is this part of more of that diversity, equity, and inclusion, or cloaked?
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah,
there's no question. I'm not disparaging female officers. It's a tough job. I mean, but you have to have the right tools. If you want to, it's just like a female combat soldier. The 11 Bravos in the Army infantry. Yeah, they're going to go through the infantry school. They're going to do all that. They're going to, get your little beret and all. But I'll tell you, not many of them are going right to the front lines. Not many of them are walking patrol. Not many of them are walking point. Not many. I don't see a lot of Navy corpsmen, female corpsmen, that are out with special forces, or even just in a platoon size operation. Because there's physical limitations. You're carrying 80, 90 pounds of gear, and you have to run at a full sprint for 100 yards, sometimes more.
Yep.
That's going to, there's just physical limitations. You're not going to be able to pull me out of out of the line of fire. I'm telling you right now. I've in the Sheriff's Academy, we had to assist the female cadets when they one-arm dragged us while simulating returning fire. We had to kick our feet because they could not drag us. Now, if I was half unconscious, I'm not kicking my feet and I'm not going anywhere. And neither is she. But I don't know. It's good luck with that. What are you going to do when it comes time to promote people or have other assignments? Are you going to put those people at the top of the heap? I can tell you right now, from an affirmative action standpoint, in the governmental agency I worked with and for, is that I've seen people promoted, and it's not sour grapes on my part. Sometimes I wasn't even involved in wanting the job that they applied for, but they were given the job too soon, and they ended up taking the job, happy about that. The promotion was nice. The problem is, when it came to chop wood, they had no clue which end of the axe to hold. And people got tired of doing their work for them, ending up with them being removed from the position. Now, is that fair to them? They were promoted not on merit, but on the pigment of their skin, because there was some type of basically a quota system. It was, the unofficial affirmative action quota. So what I'm saying is, now Bluffton is not worried about so much a crime, but they're worried about the DEA or DEI side of things, where we're going to make sure we have workforce balance and representation, as opposed to what are we doing to slow down crime, petty crime, auto theft. Let me tell you something. If you want to know what kind of community you live in, what kind of town, what kind of county, Look at the number of auto thefts. That'll tell you the whole story. And now with defundment, you don't have anybody following up on anything. I mean, a lot of times in big cities, rapes are not even, the reports are taken and they're put in a big pile, okay? Simple assaults, you're not going to get anybody to come out there and do a big investigation. They don't have resources for this. They're dismantling a lot of specialized groups and within law enforcement. And now we're worried about, we got to make sure we get 30% by the year 2030. It's a lot of people. I don't know if we have that many schools. I don't know. Whatever. That's my take on that, Jeff. I don't know what's
I'm thankful for law enforcement because, boy, the men and women that do serve their communities, and it's, as you mentioned, it's not an easy job. I was talking to a young man the other day. Actually, he was my Uber driver. Anyway, and he's a veteran. He served in Iraq, and he was talking about the process he was going through the local. He lives in Georgia, the county sheriff's department, and trying to get. He said it was really, really challenging for him, even as a veteran. And what you just added to this in terms of what the quota for, the demographics, what they want it to be. Man, I just don't see how they can pull this off. It's our world's crazy enough. I mean, just look around in the latest news, like you said, whether it's stealing cars or murder or whatever here locally, and specifically
right.
To address your point in the Bluffton PD. I mean, we're just growing gangbusters in this area, man. And so shootings are up more and you see more violent crime happening and so forth. And there's got to be a way to quell all of this nonsense that's going on. So I just give the folks that serve, that wear the uniform every day. It's not easy. And I just commend them for doing that.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm not throwing stones at Chief B. He's got a job to do and all that, but I just think it's grossly unfair if you're going to start taking a specialized group of people that are broken out by gender.
Yeah.
And that's going to be your holy grail as far as recruitment goes, to meet some kind of arbitrary number, that has been identified by New York University, which everyone on the planet knows is, the eye of the storm when it comes to liberal education.
Yeah.
This pandering to this, and I'm not saying there's not, worthy law enforcement people that happen to be female. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying there's absolutely room on the bus for everybody, especially these days, and nobody can get recruit people.
Right.
They're begging for people. Now, in some places like California, they're recruiting them undocumented aliens, in other words, illegals that have been here X number of months. They're putting them in recruitment classes for law enforcement positions in the state.
That's crazy.
Undocumented. They're not American folks. They are not American citizens. Where do you think their loyalty lies? I don't know. I don't want to harbor that. I just think that down the road, when this program starts gathering some traction, and the flowers start coming out of the soil here, and now you have to deal with a workforce that's primarily male, and they start seeing that the assignments that they've been working for, that would be a lift up for them in their career, are being handed away to people because of their gender. It's going to be demoralizing. You're going to have officers leaving your PD or your organization, going somewhere else, trying to find another place where they can possibly get ahead and not be discriminated against. But it's almost like this whole DEI show is like well, let's get our time. Let's show them. Let's get back at them. Where, the eye on the prize should be, to protect and serve, not, protect and cater to. That doesn't even fit on a car. You know what I mean? That wouldn't even make it as a good sticker. But this, this unbalancing, the immediacy that we need this right away. This is our goal. We're going to shoot for it. I'll tell you, I don't know what you're going to do with the officers that are in place right now.
Yeah.
But, they're going to see the handwriting on the wall, the scent in the wind. They're going to say, well, this is not a good place for me. I've been working 10 years looking to make sergeant or whatever. And all things being equal, nobody minds competition. If I get beat up by somebody that's stronger, smarter, and more deserving, God bless you, man. Go for it. It'll be my turn next time, maybe, if I work hard enough. Now, you don't have to do that. You just have to be the right skin pigment. You have to be the right gender, whatever that may be these days. Heaven's the Murgatroyd, man. That's what I can say about that. Good luck to him. Good luck. That's all. I don't live in Bluffton. I love the town. I love the people there. I love the cops. They're doing great for what they have. But any last words on that? I don't want to wear this doormat out too much.
That's fine. I don't really have anything else to add. I was going to swing to another topic of something that both you and I be in air travel. And when I worked on site at the Boeing Aircraft Company, but we've got, spring break and a lot of other folks that are traveling, but there's been a lot of incidents lately with regard to some of those aircraft in the news.
Boeing, the wheels falling out the wagon.
Yeah, the 737 MAX, and then recently the 787, so the Dreamliner, if you're familiar with that, some issues. And then add to that mix, there was a whistleblower that was, self-inflicted gunshot wound. Here, he was a retired, found dead in Charleston, South Carolina, so the big 787 Dreamliner factory up there just north of us a little bit, an hour and a half or so up in Charleston. And he was found dead over the weekend, Saturday, I believe, of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And here's this whistleblower, quality manager John Barnett, 62 years old, and was raising and has been raising concerns about the production quality of the company for the last several years. And so is that not disturbing? But I was going to get your take on. You were in air traffic control.
Sure.
It's with all these things that you kind of alluded to within DEI and some of even within the corporate structures, we know a lot of these woke companies that try to push a lot of this stuff. But I got to imagine Bill Boeing's turning in his grave and seeing what's going on here. I did not work for Boeing. I worked on site as a consultant to them in aerospace. And I'm telling you what, to getting on an airline, I honestly, I look for, if I'm flying Delta or American, I'm looking at what they're flying, honestly. And I just wanted to get your take on that. Anybody else feeling a little bit nervous now when they're going to the friendly skies?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a tombstone agency. That's what we always used to call it. I've been out of this business since '07, so. I've been retired quite a while. I don't think management philosophy has changed at all. But, they wait until, something happens radical.
And to address it.
If you look at the Alaskan Airlines 73 MAX that went on. Oh, sorry. I must have triggered something here. Let me lower my hand.
You have a question? Yes, see in the Zoom.
Yeah, I was waving my hand.
Big Al, you're next. Yeah.
Can I speak? Yeah, sorry.
Well, that's kind of the nice thing that we don't have video flowing because people are like, what are these guys doing? Yeah.
Goof off.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway, and people were complaining about, it's Boeing's fault. It's Boeing's fault. Well, there's so many subcontractors involved with these production of airplanes. You know this. I mean, you were at in the midst of the circus at one time or another. And as far as having governmental oversight, it would be people will not tolerate the number of employees that it would take to have a principal operating inspector at every stage of production. I mean, you would have, a, well, they're part of FISDO. I don't want to get too deep into this, but it's a flight safety district office types. But you would have, and they're assigned companies, but to have them have oversight on everything would be a whole nother slurry of employees, about another 80,000 of them in order to do this correctly. But they don't. They have one that covers like Boeing, Charleston, maybe two on the manufacturing side that does QA oversight, maybe on their books, and probably watches a technician or two do their job and then signs them off for, refreshment. So, when it comes out that Boeing does not have any kind of chain of custody on putting these bolts back into these door plugs, it's ridiculous. Because when I did maintenance on helicopters, every time we did something that required turning a wrench, we had to write it down, and it had to be inspected on the reverse as we put it back together by another inspector. So I guess they don't have any records of who handled those 4 bolts last when they pulled that plug to do some other maintenance on the door plug. But that could have ended in complete tears if that would have came off, hit the elevator, airplane comes a lawn dart.
Well, there's quality control measures, but it seems that they're. I'm assuming that's what this whistleblower was talking about. I have not done a deep dive into this yet. I just saw it pop up, and I just find that very suspicious, as anybody would. He was given, I think, a deposition and being interviewed, I think, by some legal folks, and then all of a sudden he winds up dead. I mean, it's very suspicious. So maybe I won't be flying any of the Boeing aircraft if I have to do air travel, which I will be doing quite a bit this year. And so maybe I'll be on the Airbus. We'll see. But certainly something to pay attention to. And again, when you're flying the friendly skies out there, whichever airline, you're hoping that the maintenance is being taken care of. But we're seeing this across the board, not just with Boeing specifically, not just with one particular airline or a mishap, but we're seeing multiple incidents happening in very short period of time, and that's concerning, especially from an engineering perspective.
Right.
When these planes go through an inspection with certification, A&P mechanics, when they do the regular maintenance, scheduled maintenance, and so forth, overhauls, engines, all this stuff, it's a very tedious, very regulated, very certified inspections and so forth, and obviously safety. So if we got planes dropping out of the sky and people dying, it's kind of like when I got into healthcare and I realized, wow, these folks are like light years behind aviation, technology in terms of the cutting edge or the bleeding edge of technology. If we saw that many planes falling out of the sky, like people are dying from, certain, I'll just say errors, medical errors, a human aspect of it, there'd be tremendous reform or change. But like you said, sometimes it's just a knee-jerk reaction until something catastrophic happens, and then the NTSB and everybody gets involved, the FAA, everybody gets involved, and all of a sudden there's this big push. So it's sad to see Boeing. I have nothing against any of these companies or organizations, but I'm an aviation buff, and I still love aviation, and it's sad to see. So that's let's be safe out there, I guess, is the bottom line here. Just be cautious when you're flying. I personally would probably not fly on any 737s, the Max
I'm not.
series.
The
I wouldn't
Max
do it.
series, no
Yeah.
way. No way.
So, you can, folks, when you're making your flights, you can look at the detail specifics and see, I'm on an Embraer or whatever, 175 or an Airbus A320 or A319, whatever it is, and you can make the determination as to whether or not you're going to, fly with a particular airline. So I'm not plugging any particular one. I'm just saying be cautious, pay attention to what's happening in the news and what's going on. So I say be safe out there. Yeah.
I don't know if this is just symptoms of a larger problem, being that most of the experienced people in the maintenance world and the engineering world are leaving and taking their parachute and going over the side. I can't blame them if they've had 20, 30 years with the company and they see it all going pear-shaped and it's time for them to retire. They retire and the replacements have like, a smidgen of their experience.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, I think it's completely queer that wheels are falling off of these jet airliners. I mean, I was in the reserves, Air Force Reserves, and turned a wrench on a C-141, and we changed plenty of tires. And I'll tell you, I mean, these things are checked again, and checked again before we release any airplane to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a complicated matter. It's not like changing the tire in your car. So, I mean, and the recent Houston issue with the guy, wanting to go all the way down to the end and turn right. Well, he's doing 35 miles an hour. You're not gonna turn a huge aircraft, onto a 90-degree taxiway off a runway that's wet. I mean, you're just gonna push that. I don't care if you turn the nose wheel sideways.
Yeah.
You're going in the mud. Yeah. You got too much inertia, kinetic energy. I mean,
Call the tow
physics.
truck. Yeah.
Yeah. The guy goes, oh, well, they broke the gear off. The guy, well, yeah, we know. The kid's, I listened to the tape of that whole thing. It was unbelievable. The guy's, well, he's panicking. Now, does this extend to, from the maintenance side all the way into the fly side? The guys, twisting the knobs and following the magenta lines. And I don't know. We got a lot of young pilots out there. I mean, last time I flew, the kid looks like my paper boy that was the captain of the flight. I was like, oh, man.
Well, yeah, that's another issue. I mean, there's a huge demand for pilots. I know some of the military pilots that are leaving, after they perform their service, they're leaving. And I think the pay is probably going to be pretty good, because there's going to be a significant demand, especially as the boomers retire. And so, we're going to see probably a lot of changes in aviation. But, I mean, I guess as we move to this green energy, we'll see a lot more electric. Maybe there'll be electric drones or something.
Yeah, you can grab one of those.
I'm joking, right?
Yeah, you can grab one of those. Jump on a drone and take a flight.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, it's
like a real rodeo up there.
Have an AI-driven pilot, just in case, and then you can have somebody on the ground that's flying it that's maybe a wizard with their Xbox or PlayStation, and they could start hiring 18-year-olds that fly these video games. Boy, this is like a 40-degree turn.
Yeah, it does. Well, they have them now. What is it? The RB 180 or whatever it is. This new big Super Skunk Works a flying wing that they've come up with. It's completely autonomous. They don't need any pilots in it. It's more stealthy. It's got everything going for it.
And we talked about this early on in my aviation education, for graduate level and all the stuff and human factors and the psychology of removing, of course we have unmanned combat aerial vehicles or drones, all these types of things where You have operators on the ground, and the technology is there. And I think probably there's more technology than has ever been revealed to us, the commoners, if you will. But it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I just wanted to get your take on it. It was in the news recently, and kind of one of those things that are trending, and we'll see what happens. But added to the fact, all the incidents, and then all of a sudden now this whistleblower winds up, dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. I find that
the
very
Vince
odd.
Foster deal.
Yeah. I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny, man. This is unfortunate.
It's a sad state of affairs. Before we get off the military here with the flying, I did read recently that this administration has sent out, through the Department of Defense, letters to the 8,000 or so rated pilots that they fired because they wouldn't take the inoculation.
Right.
That was so important to our health. They sent out these letters. They got 10% of them are coming back. That's how desperate they are. That's how zero thought was given to this when they started throwing people out of the service, veterans that wanted to do nothing more than make a career out of that, whatever their specialty was, flyers, Coast Guardies.
Yeah, across the board. Yeah.
Across the board. Just tossed them out, threw them out like they were just junk, putting them at the curb. You don't want to play our game? Out you go.
Well, I'd love to see the statistics across the board from corporate America, healthcare workers. Remember, we had nurse practitioners, physicians, people that,
they were out quitting.
And of course, the pharmaceutical manufacturers made a bunch of money through that whole nonsense. We're now, 4 years removed from the start of it, if you will. It's hard to believe. But now, in hindsight, I think a lot more information keeps coming out on a daily basis. A lot of the stuff that's been buried, and it's just unbelievable, honestly. It's like, I was thinking last night, man, most of the stuff that we're told, I would say a significant majority of the things that we're told in the mainstream media and the news cycle is probably just a bunch of hogwash, man. And it's unfortunate, but think about, I was watching this, Tucker Carlson was interviewing, somebody sent something to me, and it really deals with kind of what you and I were trying to talk about a few years ago when we were in the studio at Talk One, and whether it was talking, the pandemic, certain topics, the election. He was interviewing Mike Benz, and this gentleman was describing a little bit about the surveillance, if you will, now that they've turned this whole web of this infrastructure from social media and everything on basically the Internet of Things, and to be able to point it towards your everyday citizens to be able to squelch, anything that goes against their propaganda. And I'll just say that's the easiest way to say it. And it's in the form of censorship. And so you start to really lose your First Amendment, but it's our own government that's doing it to us. I mean, you don't have to agree with my political ideas, but you have to at least say, well, if we're going to, quote, preserve democracy and live in a republic where we have a Bill of Rights, and the first one is freedom of speech, which is absolutely necessary for democracy. My goodness, I mean, think about what we went through. I mean, it's not like we had millions of viewers. They were using AI to go through some of our transcripts of, let's say, YouTube and other platforms to, oh, sorry, we've got to kick you out of this room, or this platform for a while. And it's unfortunate, but it's just the way that it is. And I don't think there's, I'm more pessimistic about the bleak future for us here as a nation, because I don't see any of this changing. I was watching, I'll bring up this next segment about what's going on up there. There's always Kabuki Theater up on the hill, right? And now we've got this this gentleman that's providing, what's his name? I think, the report on Joe Biden and his willful mishandling of classified information. And essentially, I'll just cut to the chase, is basically in his report, which is supposed to be confidential to the Attorney General, I believe, is the way I understand this gentleman, Mr. Herr, basically references in his summary that, I say old man, the senile old man he was just too old and senile to stand trial. It's like, what?
Yeah, he's got the codes, but
Yeah, and that's the thing. It was what Adam Schiff or whatever was grilling this guy, saying that you knew this was going to come out and make the president look bad. I'm like, he's making himself look bad. I mean, I don't know what they keep injecting to this guy to keep him, Energizer Bunny going, but it's just really sad. And that's kind of where we're at in our country, man. It's like crazy world, upside down. It's all this other stuff. It's been nonstop. And here we are in an election cycle. We've had some changes up at the RNC. You saw that. The new director and the assistant director is the President Trump's, a daughter-in-law, Laura Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's some of this hopium that's spewed out there, but I honestly don't see, man. I mean, the way that these elitists, cabal, whatever you want to call them, deep state, I just don't ever see them relinquishing control. They're not going to go out easily. And the damage is already done. I mean, just look at the cross-section of the United States. We're still divided, even though Trump is the front runner. And I can't believe that Biden really is actually running. And there's people out there. And I have to be careful because I'm not saying that Trump is the one to lead this nation, but out of the two, I mean, really, Biden, look at how's Build Back Better working for everybody right now. His State of the Union address seems to believe that everything's fine and dandy. They're starting to a little bit address a little bit, just to kind of, acknowledge there are some issues at the southern border, but the problems don't just stop there. I mean, if you've been to the grocery store lately, you realize the cost of goods, they say it's a couple percentage points. My goodness. Go buy Hellman's mayonnaise and see what it is now versus what it was 2 or 3 years ago. I was astonished. I think it was like $7 for one of those squeeze bottles. I said, for mayonnaise?
Yeah.
I'll try Duke's. Sorry.
Yeah, you're not going to get any breaks. I watched the summary of the State of the Union because I cannot. I'm sorry, but I can't stomach this never-ending stumbling, bumbling, and lies that come out of this guy's mouth. It reminds me of a James Brown song, talking loud and saying nothing,
Oh, my goodness. See, it was a fiery speech. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I just caught the clips. I feel the same way. I can't really just sit there and listen to this guy, and he's a career politician,
It's severe cringe. I mean, you think that the world looks at this guy and says, nah, no way I'm going to talk to this guy about anything serious because he doesn't remember what he just said.
Yeah.
I did find it refreshing that he called an illegal an illegal. I mean, that's completely off script. He's a Freudian slip. He didn't have enough.
Well, he later corrected himself in an interview, didn't he? Undocumented.
Yeah, because he went, he got called out, by his, the Palestinian, what do they call them? What's their name over there? AOC and Naja and the other one from Minnesota. They called him out and said, no, you can't say that. So he did the press, junket and get on his hands and knees and begged
mea culpa.
The country. I shouldn't have said that. I respect everybody. You're right. Okay, take it easy. We know you're old and feeble, and he's still walking it back. It's he's pleading for mercy from the Latino base in this country. And let me tell you something right now, and I'll go on record. The blacks in America, the Latinos in America, even though they're streaming across the southern boundary like no tomorrow, but the established Americanized Latinos have had it. They've had it with this knucklehead. They've had it with Democrats treating them like they were some type of, tools to be used every 4 years. And, these professors pumping out the fact that blacks can't get, they can't go and get state ID. Are you crazy? They don't even know what the internet is. You talk to any of these young troopers that are coming off of these college campuses, and they'll all tell you, "Oh yeah, that's we're you know the Republicans want to you got to show ID. That nobody can get ID unless they're these marginalized people. They can't do that. Unfortunately, that's a big lie that most blacks and Latinos in this country are just saying, listen, stop treating me like I'm a complete idiot. We don't need you to make our way in America today. And there's an awakening going on. The only problem I have with this, and I champion that, and I love to see it, is the fact that when Trump becomes president-elect, that's when the dogs are going to be released. Do you think Portland was bad? Do you think Minneapolis was bad in 2020? We have terrorists in this country that have come across the southern boundary from all ilks, from China, from Muslim countries that cannot wait to get the word to swing into action. And that's going to set up I'm afraid, a civil war. It's going to be those that are on one side and those that are on the other.
Yeah, and that's what I meant in terms of division across the country, because you still
absolutely.
have, I say the knuckleheads, but people that can't just try to remove themselves from that divisive equation where they've got, Republican versus Democrat. We need to get back to a way of life where we as Americans, and I just don't see the government, they're not going to hand over the keys back to the castle, if you will, because of everything that's transpired, specifically from the military-industrial complex from the late 40s, early 50s. It's been a march to current day where we really don't know the veracity or the integrity of the elections that take place. And so even though Trump is the clear front runner through the rigged polls, of course, if you look across the board, I mean, you've got kind of a rematch of 2020, and what is going to transpire over the summer and into the early and late fall when we march towards a November presidential election. What's going to happen? That's my biggest, I say, fear. I'm not fearful of anything. I know God's still in charge. But what's going to transpire? Like say, okay, he's elected in a landslide victory, which it appears to be, because when you start getting the demographic of, like you said, 30% black voters, the Hispanic Latinos are already, behind him. You get more and more people that are coming out, waking up to the fact that at least, regardless of whether you like him as a person or not, the policies that he was trying to institute, but the deep state, the cabal, they're not having it, man. They're still coming after him, whether this is the real deal or just a ploy again for more division across the country. But people do have Trump derangement syndrome. It's not like, he's not the creator of all this evil, but some people believe that in their mind, in their heart. And no matter what he says or does, it's never going to be enough for them. And I don't know how we're going to turn the ship around, man. It just seems like we're on the Titanic getting ready to go down, waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it's a matter of time. So I'm hoping some good comes of all this, but we know that God's in charge, and that's how I sleep at night, because a lot of this kabuki theater that you see playing out with the federal government especially, it's nonsense, man. I mean, seems like we have no justice in this country anymore. It's two-tiered, and then we've got lawfare that's being applied to individuals that do speak out. We have the censorship issue. I think it's still, obviously full on today. And we have a very large military-industrial complex where we've got people that are benefiting because of the war efforts or the campaigns that we initiate and start around the world, that people are, it pays. I say crime pays, but for certain individuals, elected officials or politicians, career politicians, it pays for them. But it doesn't pay for you and me. You and I are the taxpayers. We are paying for or bearing the burden, the brunt of all of this nonsense that we've seen transpire for many decades, but especially over the past few years. So I guess as we march towards November, Al, we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, if you want to see what's going on, as far as you brought this up early in the show, talking about censorship and free speech, you want to see where we're headed in this country, take a look at Canada right now.
Oh, yeah.
They have already legislated what they call hate speech laws, rules, and regulations that can turn out to you can find yourself in jail if you, let's say, respond to a tweet or put something on the internet or overheard, or if, let's say, you say something that's completely rude to another human being up there, they can call the police and have you arrested for hate speech. Arrested. Now you gotta pay a fine. You're not gonna go to jail, I don't think. I don't know. Maybe as radical as they are, they will send you to jail. But this is what's coming to a country near you. So I mean, cinch up, ladies and gentlemen.
I agree.
Joe Biden, they just tell him, "Hey, Joe, go out there and have a nice ice cream cone and laugh and joke with the people and." Smell some old lady's hair or something, just act like, everything's fine. They drive inflation up to like astronomical numbers. And when it drops 1.5 points, they say, look at what we've done. We dropped it 1.5 points.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I saw an article I read right before we came on the air, and it said that in 4 years that the national debt was going to be at $45 trillion. Right now it's at 34, like a little over 34 trillion. $34 trillion, folks. You can't dig out of that hole. I mean, there's no way that you can climb out of that hole that we've dug for so long. And it's just, again, another one of those things. And I hate to be the doomsday person, but it's like, man, we're in a lot of trouble, man. And I'm not suggesting that, as some people do, that like Trump is going to be the savior of this nation. There's only one savior. We're getting ready to celebrate his resurrection in shortly at the end of this month. But we do need a change, and I don't know how you can clean up a corrupt, dirty government. And we're talking not only at the federal level, but all the way down to the local level, man. I mean, it's just like a cancer that has infected us for many, many decades, and those that know that and have either served or been part of the political process or have watched all of this kind of sprout up over the last few years especially, you can kind of see it's been rearing its ugly head, and you go, man, there's weeds everywhere in this garden. How do we get rid of it?
Yeah.
I don't have the answer. I wish I did, but the more that I learn every single day about some of the stuff that comes out, and I think that's, to your point, I don't know at what point are we going to go in that direction where people are going to have to comply, or there's going to be some sort of a rebellion, if you will, a revolution for this great nation.
Just look at, hey, Jeff, look at the test bed that's going on right now out in Colorado.
Yeah,
where they're going to ban what they call assault rifles, whatever that means.
Right.
But this is a test bed. We're testing all the time. Everything's
social engineered.
Just
honestly.
just like the pandemic was a test to see if they could control people. This is going to introduce digital currency. You can put your all the money that you've been stuffing in a mattress, you might as well forget about it. You could start a campfire with, because it's not going to be worth anything. You're going to get either injected with a card, or you're going to have a basic card that covers your insurance, covers your everything,
or some sort of a biometric scan is what it's going to come down to.
Absolutely.
So your iris scan, and then it's over, because Jeff said something on the radio show the other day, and so he's not going to get access to his money, and that's, I mean, then you're shut out. You can't buy food. You can't know.
You go to the grocery store, you fill up your grocery cart, you go to the self checkout, you slide your card. It says, see the teller or whatever, see the supervisor, see the manager, and they tell you the bad news. Sorry, but you're restricted to $25. And you got $300 worth of groceries, which is like a quarter of a cart these days. But you mentioned local, political corruption, and it reaches all the way down to this county, my my good friend and yours, Mike Covert on Big Patriot Radio, Beaufort County House of Cards had a great show on last Thursday. I got to give him a plug because I watched and listened to it. He had Eric Greenway on, and he cleared up a lot of hearsay and pointed out some questionable practices within the Beaufort County administration. I'll just say that. So check him out on bigpatriotradio.com. The live shows on Thursday nights at, I believe, 8 o'clock.
Yep.
But he's really making some big strides and doing a lot of heavy work, heavy lifting as far as the corruption goes on a local basis here. And he's connected, so he gets all that juice. And having Greenway on, I didn't think too much of the guy, but after watching him and listening to him, he made an actual appeal to people to be more open-minded about what is being said and what's coming out. And he actually did a great mea culpa with this woman that he was allegedly involved with romantically, and said, "I'm sorry I brought you into this." And, my impression of him went a 180. I thought the guy was just another, slug puppet that the county had driving a train, but he seemed like a decent guy. I don't know. I don't know that much about him, but.
Well, that's important even for our listeners to understand is that you gotta sometimes have to go behind the story, because what's being presented or how it's being presented is not always the truth, obviously. And
right.
So you gotta do your own research, and even if you can, get to know these people individually, personally, and make your own deductions based off facts, and not just what you're being told or what someone else is telling you. And that's the same thing as you listen to Al and I talk about some of these topics, is go research for yourself and come to your own conclusions as to whether you believe we're full of hot air or not. But the reality is a lot of the stuff in the news cycle is purely propaganda. You got to start using your critical reasoning, critical thinking skills, folks. It's not an easy time to be alive. But as I mentioned earlier, God's still in charge. I'm not. I just try to do my best. And that's
right.
The message for, as we get ready to sign off, is perseverance, persistence to continue to do what's right, even though we live in, say, a dark time. Continue to be the salt and the light, those fellow believers out there. We've got to keep pressing on. And I know you feel the same way about that. There's still time for repentance. If you don't know the Lord, you can still turn to him.
Yep. I can't agree more with you as far as, I know I mentioned this before, but, you can say the sinner's prayer and go to altar call, but if you do not repent of your sins and change your lifestyle and rely on the Lord Jesus Christ to guide you through life, I'm sorry, but it doesn't end with you saying a sinner's prayer or making a declaration that you're now born again. Being a Christian is not an easy deal. You have to work at it. It's a constant work to be in his glory and under his grace and forgiveness. He knows, he counts every hair on your head. So
that's right.
It's not a hard thing to do. Reach out. He'll be there, as they say.
So even though it seems bleak, folks, there's no reason to lose hope. If you don't know Christ, we say, you can only love once you've been loved, and then only to the degree to which you've been loved or forgiven. Same thing. You've been forgiven much, you've been loved much. That's what we're getting ready to celebrate. The Easter celebration is really all about the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ Jesus. If you're wondering who he is, you can always give us a holler here, or look it up for yourself. Go to the book of John in the New Testament. Find out who this Jesus is and follow him. And as Al says, repent means to agree with God that you messed it up. We all have. Just look around. I'm no better than you. But we are accountable individually for our actions, for how we conduct ourselves. This is not a dress rehearsal, folks. This is the real deal, and it's for all eternity. So don't wait.
Yeah.
He's not angry at you, by the way. That's what Jesus did on the cross at Calvary. He took care of that sin problem that we have. As the Apostle Paul so eloquently puts, if you read the book of Romans, the letter to the church at Rome, you will see as Paul does such a wonderful job building from chapter 1 all the way to the beginning of chapter 8, which he says, therefore, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. It covers all sin, past, present, and future, folks. Jesus.
Getting the word of God. That's it.
That's it.
Get in the Bible, read something in there.
So don't just listen to Big Al and Zapper on this. Go find out for yourself. Thanks so much for listening today. And Al, thanks for being here. We covered a lot. Hopefully we'll be on next Tuesday. If you're good with that, Al, I'm ready for next Tuesday.
Absolutely.
There's still plenty to talk about. Appreciate everyone coming in today to hang out. Phone lines are always open, folks. You know, I know we're broadcasting in the middle of the day here, but it's easier for us, and hopefully it's easy on you. You can always give us a holler here in the studio because we want to hear what you have to say. This is all about the common ground, finding some at least, and being able to establish some dialogue. So thanks for joining Big Al and Zapper today. Until the next time, signing off from the Common Ground Radio Show.